Rui from Suar. So welcome. Bring it on home.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'm the last one. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if you're too tired, if you still pay attention. I see all my fellow founders all very calm now. So yeah, welcome. Thank you to hosting for hosting us here today. I'm going to talk to you about CWire, give you a bit of background about myself. I've been working on the advertising ecosystem since 2011, I think. I started in a very old company that was over 100 years old called Public Group. And they've been acquiring companies in the ad tech space. That's how I got into ad tech. Then I moved into on the publisher side. It was actually a really fun ride. I loved it. I felt really the passion of monetizing and supporting journalism through that. And at some point, it was really slow within the publisher side, so I decided to move away from the industry altogether. Went into fintech, into an AI startup in fintech, and they actually started doing, they were actually listening to social media to make sense out of that data. At the same time, Google says, we're going to stop tracking users and basically get rid of third-party cookies and not supporting IDs and more privacy. That was kind of the trend. And the whole ad tech industry goes like, oh, you know what? Let's get deterministic IDs now with email addresses. And it felt very counterintuitive. And with what I was working on AI, I was like, there must be ways to actually make ads relevant without knowing who the user is. So that's why I'm going to introduce you what I believe is the future of advertising. And the problem we actually fixing is something you've obviously heard a lot already today. I'm not going to get back into why, but essentially, it's more and more privacy in the ecosystem. We want to be, a lot of users cannot be tracked anymore. Technically, it's getting harder and harder. Whether Google will deprecate cookies, let's see. But ultimately, today already, advertisers can't reach 40% of the users. Some people say 50, sometimes it's 60, it depends on the country. But let's say, a big chunk here on this side, apparently it's you, that cannot be tracked. So a big chunk of users cannot be tracked anymore, which also leads to publishers not monetizing properly a big chunk of their inventory. So that's a massive market. It's a lot of people in a massive industry. Here again, people mentioned the numbers and what it means, sometimes more, sometimes less. I was quite conservative and I said, it's going to be at least 84 billion. It's a massive market. But when we look at the problem from a different prism, and let's look at the future of the market and how it looks like in terms of split. We're going to have the privacy sandbox eventually at scale. And that's going to be on Chrome. Maybe Edge will also bring some APIs, but essentially Safari and Firefox will not. So that's like browser APIs will be available in some browsers. We're going to have deterministic IDs with consent that will serve a lot of purposes in a really cool way that will allow a lot of stuff, but a lot of the users will not be addressable. We don't know how much, how many users, what's the percentage, but it's going to be big. And that's where we want to be really good at, to be able to cover all users, no matter where the browser API is available or an ID is available. And I don't have probabilistic IDs here, not because it looks better, but because every browser and tech provider have committed to make signals disappear that enable those probabilistic IDs. So for me, I don't see that in the long run. So what we've done is essentially building, the only privacy-first SSP, and we've started with essentially getting the targeting and figuring out whether an ad is relevant for a user by using AI, based on signals that do not need user identification. So we started by matching ads with the content from publishers. Then we've also, seen that ad experiences in the programmatic ecosystem were actually not really good. For whatever reason, we've decided a long time ago 300 times 250 pixels was a good way to show an ad to someone. And we see social media building so good ad experiences, and we believe that should be available everywhere. And the last one is the pipes are actually a problem, and we've heard that a lot already today. So we've built a direct creation platform where buyers can create their own deals. So to get a bit more into the detail on how we do that, so it's essentially contextual advertising, but we do that in a slightly different way. we actually start looking at the creative. And that's the first part, because that's what we're promoting. That's what the advertiser wants to promote and to show to users. So we felt we need to understand what's in there. And the idea for us is to understand the product or the service that is being promoted with its attributes. So we index the landing page of the creative, we'll vectorize that, we'll infer what the demographics should be, what the lifestyles are for people that are interested in that type of product. And then we put that into the whole universe of pages that we see from publishers that monetize their websites through our tech. And that's essentially how not only do we know which topics the ad should deliver on, but also to what extent is a page relevant for an ad, and that allows us to optimize. So we have a score, and that will define which pages should deliver that ad and whether they're eligible for that particular ad. And we can use that to optimize. So if it's a massive campaign with lots of reach in a short period of time, the score will be lower and will include more articles. But the idea being, we want to deliver most of the budget on the most relevant ads. The next point is, the advertising experience. So we've built ad experiences using the specs from social media because the assets exist, so it doesn't lead to extra creative costs. And we make that available so that it can deliver on the entire funnel from advertisers. And we make that available on every publisher. So for publishers that work with us, we will look at every placement, every ad unit on their page. We'll group that. We'll understand which ones can run what formats. We'll also understand which ones, whether they're sticky, whether they have an ad refresh and so on, to really be able to understand the inventory. And then we give that direct access to buyers where they can create their own deals. They're going to select the media type they want. They're going to select, the country, the device, the inventory they want. They can select sellers, remove websites in a very transparent way. And then once that's done, we'll basically have the targeting side. On programmatic level, we don't necessarily have the creative beforehand, so you can create your own deal, and you can prompt whatever you want to actually generate and give you recommendations on which categories you should select, and then we'll calculate the relevance between every URLs in that category and the prompt that you've entered. So you can prompt anything in there, and you'll see the reach you get. And the last part is essentially, matching every URL with the content that you have, and that can be multi-language as well, to figure out which pages are the most relevant. And the last one is obviously the creative part, where just like you would on Meta, you can add your creative and export a tag that you can then use in your DSP or your ad server to be able to ad serve high impact formats or non-standard formats. That's essentially it. And thanks to that, we actually deliver ads on Safari and Firefox, a bit over-indexed there. But not only that, we actually have better CTRs and better post-click KPIs with average session duration and also better bounce rates, for example. Thanks a lot for listening, and scan the QR codes to follow CYR or me on LinkedIn or both. Thank you.
All right, investors, would you like to start us off?
Thank you very much, Rui. So 10 million this year. So you're not going to do that from Europe. What's the expansion plan? Or are you going to do it from Europe?
The 10 million will do it from Europe. The expansion plan is actually beyond Europe, so we want to obviously enter the US market. But the 10 million will mostly be done with what activities we have today, so out of Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and France. That's the countries we cover. And we can basically double our revenue year on year just in those markets. And obviously, in the long run, we're looking at becoming the billion-dollar valuation company.
Very good presentation. Let me ask, do you think the biggest problem in your scale will be buy side or sell side? Let me clarify. So the point is, do you need more publishers to buy your nice technology, etc., or do you need a lot of people that will be able to manage and sell to agencies and brands the opportunity to have one campaign on your, let me say, supply side part?
I think the buy side is the more complicated to address. The publisher side has been very standardized as well. There's pre-bid, there's a lot of things. There's also curation. So, we could actually discuss with publishers so that they don't need to integrate us as a bidder. We don't necessarily need that. We need to figure out how we can, get our added value to work, whether it's directly integrating our tech or not, doesn't matter. But addressing the buyers is the more complicated piece because, they're going to use their specific tech and it's going to be media agencies and there's business models in place. And it's not like they're not using anything today. It's just that they're missing out on something. So they can keep spending the same amount of money on what they're doing today. So you do need to prove value, and that obviously is a long process.
And do you normally compete with standard contextual? So that they can, in theory, today do it, okay, at different quality, both from the point of view of formats. So do you normally have a POC in which they tell you, try and show me,
Always.
or?
Always you start with the tests, and they look at you. If they do contextual already, they're going to check in whether you perform better or not. But yeah, you always start with, a test here and there, and them kind of A/B testing and having a testing protocol to figure out whether they want to work with you or not.
Other than the money, Rui, what is it that you're mainly looking for from investors?
From what we're waiting from investors?
Yeah, outside of the cash, what would be important to you in choosing the right investor?
Well, I think, working with investors that actually understand what we do helps. So, that already makes our life easier as founders because explaining, the whole advertising ecosystem is a lot of effort if you don't know it at all. So I'd say that. And then, if there's a network, good. But primarily cash, let's be honest.
Hey, but you work with Tom.
I do work with Tom.
That's 0 for 3.
What keeps you up at night?
Many things. No, I mean, essentially it's, probably there's so many moving parts in the ecosystem at the moment. So many things can happen or not happen. Privacy sandbox, yes, no, data signals, DSPs. I mean, we've seen great initiatives from a lot of companies here that we could work with or compete with. The question is, how do we make sure that whatever we're developing today can be valuable in whatever scenario? So, and that we work on the next best thing while making sure that we go in the right direction to get the vision we want. So I think that's what keeps me up at night the most. It's keep track of what's going on, actually.
Well, let's not keep you wake anymore if you need to get your sleep. So thank you very much for that. Fantastic. Great job. Good job. All right.
Good job, man. Good job. Good way to end it.